Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Check Plus. I'm Julia Borston. I'm so excited to be here today for our live interview with Alejandro Oropeza. He is co-founder and CEO of Flavrs, a new app that just closed a big round of funding, and also Tom Colicchio, famous celebrity chef, also chef of many of my favorite restaurants, and also, of course, a judge on Top Chef. Thank you, Tom and Alejandro, for talking to us today.
Thanks for having us.
So Alejandro, let's start off. Explain, what is Flavrs? It's a new app. How does it work, and who is it for?
Yeah, thank you for having us, Julia. So Flavrs is a new platform where we're bringing together the best of the best food content. So think about short form video content from the world's best chefs, content creators, publishers, bloggers, basically everyone who shapes culture in food. But what's really unique about what we're building is the whole app, the whole product has been built by great technologists around the experience of food and connecting to doing something about it. The core insight that the whole company is based on is a profoundly human behavior, which is when you see something delicious, you generally want to do something about it. So people have been watching content, in the US since the days of Julia Child. But the thing that's unique about Flavrs is being able to see something and do something about it. So watch a great video from a chef, then order the ingredients through our custom integration to Instacart, or watch a great video and cook along with it. In the future, maybe watch a great video, discover a great restaurant, order a great meal kit. And so the core premise is that people, when they're watching great food content, want to do so much more than just watch it. They want to watch it, they want to shop it, they want to eat it. And Flavrs is the first place where they can do that. We're, of course, very excited about the beta launch a week ago, and we're seeing some really strong interest as of now.
So interesting. So as a food lover and a home chef myself, I love to cook, and I love to try to recreate chefs' recipes at home. Tell us a little bit about how you're making that connection between seeing a chef cook a recipe and then being able to execute it at home.
Totally. So look, the founding team is a phenomenal group of technologists, right? So folks that have worked for Google, for YouTube, for Facebook, for Twitter, but everyone shares a deep passion for food and a deep understanding of human behavior. And so what we've done is we've created a unique experience where you can, for example, watch a great video, and then all the ingredients, all the steps, everything that you need to replicate that at home has been annotated to the video. So bringing together the best of, short form video with the best of somewhere like the New York Times. And so you basically get both of those in the same experience, which is very unique. Then there's the first commerce integration, which is a downstream commerce integration with Instacart, where as you watch a great recipe, you hit shop, and one click away, you're directed to an experience where you can get everything delivered at home in order to replicate the recipe. Again, it's very early in the journey. It's week one. And so we're seeing very strong responses from users. But, as it is day one, we look forward to building a whole bunch of other interesting features that really take the experience of cooking, of shopping, and most importantly, of connecting with other humans through food to the next level. So super early, but we're very excited about what the future holds for Flavrs.
So interesting. So Tom, you must get pitched a lot of different ideas in the food and the tech space. What made you want to get involved with this one?
I do. I was introduced to Alejandro, and we had a quick meeting. And within the first 2 minutes, I stopped him and I said, this is very similar to something that I had been working on years ago, back in 2005, 2006. It was a part of what we were working on. And then when the everything crashed, I never went out and tried to fund it and just kind of forgot about it. And so I stopped him right away. I said, this is fantastic. I love the idea. And again, back then, you didn't have the idea of linking it to, a way to actually shop. And so I just thought it was a great idea. I mean, you look, so frequently we're looking at these videos, and whether it's that overhead shot of just the food, or a chef standing behind a counter working through a recipe. And you have to sit there and go back to the recipe, and then write a list out, and hopefully everything is there when you get to the market. And so this just really automates that whole process. The great thing about it too is that you can scale the recipes. So if the recipe is for 4 people and you're cooking for 8, you can just put the information in. It'll scale it for you, so you don't have to work that out. And again, this is just the beginning. And then part of it is that yes, Alejandro was talking as from the tech perspective, but then very quickly he told me he's a trained chef and grew up in the restaurant industry in Mexico City, and so that told me that this was going to be a serious, food first, technology second, which I was really excited about.
Oh, so interesting. And Tom, I'm curious from your perspective as someone who's not only been a chef, but who's been on these food-oriented shows for so many years. Do you think there's a hole in the market right now? I mean, I see people post about food all the time on Instagram, and you see people watching all these shows, whether it's on the Food Network or somewhere else. But what hole do you think this is filling, and what type of audience, and how big do you think the audience is that's going to be engaging with this, Tom?
No, I think there's a huge opportunity here. You know, if you were looking at other short video formats, you would have to sift through things to find food. Maybe you can search for it, but this is all food all the time. And then I believe that content providers, chefs, and also just foodies who like to post their stuff they're going to gravitate towards this site. And then once they do, we just create a whole, universe of food-loving videos, content providers, content creators, and just create again a social media site around food, dedicated to food. So I think this is it's a no-brainer, and I think it's going to attract a lot of eyeballs, especially since again. This is the group behind this. Yes, they get the tech stuff down. We know it's going to work, but they really care about food first. And so I think we're going to see some really great things that come out of this.
Yeah, and the images from the app so far are gorgeous. Alejandro, though, away from the intent of connecting food lovers and making it easier to cook these amazing dishes, what's the business model here, or what do you see the business model becoming in the next few years?
Totally. So look, in the short term, the focus of the company is to build the best user experience on the planet for people who live to eat, right? For foodies. And so over the short term, the focus is effectively to build that great experience. We start with this custom connection into Instacart, which of course can monetize. And there's a variety of other great ways that these social platforms are monetizing, right? So it's not just ads or brand partnerships, but things like micro subscriptions and the ability for people to maybe donate directly to chefs and support their work, buying merch. There's so many interesting things. I think that the real opportunity here is at the intersection of two large content and business categories. So when you think about the size of food as a content vertical, it's massive, over 20 billion video views per year. And then commerce in food, over $130 billion industry. And so again, it's day one. The opportunities are endless when you think about how hungry people are, pun intended, to watch this great content and then doing something about it. So very early days, but we're gonna find a bunch of interesting ways to not just monetize our business, but also to share value with creators and with chefs, who are ultimately the people that bring the passion and the food onto the platform.
Yeah, figuring out ways for chefs to profit from that too, I'm sure is really important. I know during the pandemic, there was an increased attention to that. But before we get back to the product itself, tell us a little bit about fundraising. You just raised $7 million, led by Andreessen Horowitz, and then other chefs, including Tom Colicchio, but other people as well. Tell us about what this fundraising means, whether it's hard to obtain in this market, which is a tough one for VC, and what you're going to do with that money.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'll start with the personal side of the story for 30 seconds, which is what Tom mentioned. I started cooking at 7, then grew up in a family of restaurants and chefs in Mexico City, trained in France at the Ritz Hotel. And so food is a deep passion of ours. And I think investors recognize our understanding and our passion for both the food, the content, and the technology aspect of what we're building. And so some of the things that I think the reason they have leaned in is the large intersection of content and commerce as a business. So, the addressable market is huge. A best-in-class team of builders and foodies who know what they're doing, content from some of the world's best chefs, content creators, etc., and a unique product that's built for food. We raised this round led by Andreessen Horowitz, of course, a phenomenal investor, and particularly Connie Chan, who has been writing about this space for a while. And it was a meeting of the minds when we first met, right? So vertical social platforms, shoppable videos, some of the trends that are coming from the Asian market are things that Connie was already writing about, that we had already discussed, that we were working on. And so it's been so far a phenomenal partnership. We also have, great chefs like Tom involved, and a bunch of others, content creators, and a bunch of other investors with verticalized understanding of Gen Z trends, of food, and things that are very valuable to us. In the current market, as you can imagine, it wasn't easy. And I don't know if you know this, but only 2% of venture goes into Latino founders. And so we were racing basically on a bear market with a lot of sort of odds stacked against us. But we're a team that's filled with grit. We're a team of 2 immigrants. We're a team of people who work very hard for what they want. And so we were able to pull it through. We've seen phenomenal interest and support from some of the world's best investors and chefs and bloggers. And so again, day one, week one, super excited about what's coming. But yeah, it's been a great ride so far.
Yes, well, congratulations on that round of financing. And I wonder, as you go forward, how important it's going to be to have more partners, whether it's high-profile chefs or more companies like Instacart. I think about ordering groceries from Whole Foods or from Amazon Fresh or all these different platforms to make it so it's not just specific to one partner like that, but imagining being sort of a universal platform for these things.
Absolutely. Look, I'll take it like one step further and say our mission is to connect the world through food. And in order to connect the world through food, we need to connect a bunch of people with a bunch of great experiences. Day one is taking people from content to groceries, because meal planning is hard for families and we want to really solve a user problem. Instacart has been a phenomenal partner so far, but we are, of course, open to new partnerships as the product scales. And so, yes, the vision for the future is one where we connect these beautiful pieces of content, which will make you hungry and excited, and then allow you to do something about it. Step one is groceries. There will be many more to come.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. So you know there's a dedicated audience that loves posting about food on Instagram, on TikTok. People love taking photos of their food. They love sharing recipes. I mean, I sometimes save recipes on Pinterest. If I see it on a website, you have New York Times has a recipe, as a whole recipe app. My question is, why do you think it's important to pull people off these other services where there's other stuff going on as well and create something that is a dedicated service, maybe even something that you would eventually charge for when there's so much content out there already? It's not like there isn't a lot of content in this space.
Totally. And I think it's a great question and one that we get very often. We think that consumers will continue to use large content platforms for what they are great at, which is horizontality, right? If you want to watch everything, then there are great places to do that. But if you actually want to deep dive into the experience of a specific content vertical, if you want to connect with a community of like-minded people, if you want to be free from some of the sort of pitfalls of existing social media, Flavrs is going to be a great place to do that, because you're going to be connecting with people who like you, love food. You're going to be watching content exclusively related to food that's going to make you happy, hungry. People, when they look at the product, they're like, oh, this made me so happy. It feels meditative. And so we're creating a very unique experience. Again, people will continue to use some of the large platforms. We think this is complementary. I think a great analogy to that is what Twitch has done for live streaming and gaming, where, of course, there are great platforms who have great gaming content out there. Twitch has built a really unique community where, you know, people feel connected to a specific product, to a set of creators, to a specific technology, and to people who, you know, talk, speak like them and are interested in the same things. Building a community in the food space, I think, is really unique. And we are building for people who live to eat, right? People who define their whole selves through their experience of food. And for those people, when they see Flavrs, it's really exciting. So we're going to coexist, but there's so much opportunity to build something beautiful and unique in the food space.
So more focused, a more focused approach, and not with all the noise in other places in social media. So Tom, just a final question to you, a similar one. I mean, you've seen how your fans engage with you and other brands and other content on social platforms, elsewhere across apps. There is so much content out there. What is it that you have seen about the way people are interacting with food content that made you convinced that this was filling a necessary niche in the market?
You know, again, I think because most of those other platforms that are out there, you can't shop directly through them. You can't write a recipe. That's the I think the game changer here. You could look at, you know, Instagram and look at someone doing a recipe, and then you have to sit there and try to write. And especially those other platforms, you're not getting a recipe. You're just seeing a video. So you have to try to figure out what they're actually doing and write it down and watch it over and over again to create a shopping list. You know, the other thing I think is kind of novel too is that we talked about going out to some of the large food producers or going through Instacart, but there's a whole bunch of small producers that are doing some really cool things that we can also connect to. There are foraging sites that we can connect to. And so if you're really looking for the latest, you know, porcinis and morels when they're first in season, you're not going to find that through a large, you know, broad retailer. You're going to have to go to some of these other people, you know, that have these foraging sites. So there's a lot of other things that we can do. There's also specialty vinegar makers and olive oils and things like that that can be connected. So you're not just going through the inventory of what's on the shelves in, you know, again, Whole Foods. And so there's a whole world that we can open up to small producers as well, not just the broadliners. And I think that's a pretty cool aspect of this as well.
pretty cool. And as a consumer of these products, I can't wait to buy some cool porcini so I could try to recreate some of your recipes, Tom. But this is fascinating. I mean, looking at the connection between content and commerce and the social component as well, with this passionate audience of food lovers and home chefs. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us, Alejandro and Tom. Appreciate you coming on and talking to us on the heels of this news of the $7 million funding round for Flavrs.
Thank you, Julia.
Thanks so much. That's been Tech Check Plus.